I never imagined that the night which was supposed to change my life forever would begin with a phone call that felt too ordinary to matter. I was sitting by the kitchen window, staring at the fading sunlight over the city, sipping my lukewarm coffee, when my phone buzzed with a name that both warmed and unsettled me. Michael. My older cousin, the man who had always been half mentor, half stranger, and the one person my family trusted more than anyone else. I pressed answer without thinking, without realizing that the next words I would hear would drag me into a whirlpool of secrets, lies and choices that would break my world apart. "San," he said, his voice sharp and unusually urgent, "I need you to come home tonight. There's something you must know. It's about the family. It's about everything you believed." Those words set my heart racing, my palms cold, my mind already spinning through memories and fears I had buried for years. I had not been home for almost 8 years. After I turned 21, I left that house, that suffocating mansion full of whispers and hidden deals, and I promised myself I would never walk back in. Yet here I was, 29, supposedly successful, supposedly independent, with a promising job in a legal firm, a quiet apartment, and a heart that still beat faster whenever the ghosts of my past called my name. The drive back was long, too long for my thoughts to stay still. Each mile felt like a chapter I never finished reading, a page I never dared to turn. I remembered the arguments with my father, the cold silences from my mother, the strange disappearances of money and people around our business empire. My family was wealthy, influential, feared, but never clean. That was the unspoken truth I carried. And now Michael wanted to tell me something. Why now? Why after all these years? I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, my reflection in the windshield a pale, anxious shadow. When I finally reached the old estate, the sight of it hit me like a forgotten wound. The gates were open, lights were on in almost every room, and there were too many cars parked along the driveway. My family rarely gathered without a reason, and never without an agenda. As I stepped out of the car, the chill of the evening wrapped around me, mixing with the faint smell of expensive cigars and fresh paint. They had renovated the mansion, but the air still carried the same heaviness, the same tension that once made me run. Inside, the living room was crowded. Faces I hadn't seen in years turned to me with false smiles and greedy eyes. My father, Richard, stood near the fireplace, his posture stiff, his glass of whiskey already half empty. My mother, Alina, came toward me with open arms, the scent of her perfume too sweet, too strong, like a mask hiding something rotten. My younger brother, Eric, only 19 now, gave me a small nod, avoiding my gaze. And then there was Michael, leaning against the piano, his expression unreadable, his phone still in his hand. He waved me over with that same urgent look. "San," he whispered when I approached, "thank you for coming. I couldn't say it on the phone. They are planning something tonight and you are at the center of it." My heart sank. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely audible over the soft music and clinking glasses around us. He looked at me, eyes hard, and said, "They want you to sign a document, a transfer, your shares, your inheritance. They are broke, San. They lost everything in the last deal. And they will use you to cover their debts." The words hit me like ice water. I stared at my parents across the room, their smiles too wide, their gestures too practiced. All those years I stayed away, they had been building this moment, preparing this trap. I had worked hard to build my own career, my own small fortune, but the inheritance tied to my name was still a key to the family empire. Without it, they were crumbling. With it, they could rise again on my back. The night unfolded like a well-rehearsed play. Dinner was served, toasts were made, relatives I barely remembered tried to charm me with fake nostalgia. Every word felt like a rope pulling me tighter into their net. My mother kept touching my arm, asking if I was happy in the city, if I ever thought of coming back. My father avoided direct questions, but his eyes followed me with a predator's patience. Michael stayed close, whispering warnings between bites of food, telling me to stay calm, to listen, to not sign anything until I knew the truth. Then came the moment. After dessert, my father stood up, tapped his glass, and cleared his throat. "Family," he began, "tonight we celebrate not only our reunion but also a new chapter. San has returned to us, and with her help we will rebuild what was lost." A folder was placed on the table, papers inside it, a pen next to it. I knew before he even said it, they wanted me to sign. I felt the weight of every eye in that room. They were waiting, watching, expecting. I glanced at Michael, his jaw tight, his head shaking slightly. I looked at Eric, who quickly looked away. My mother smiled too much, her hands clasped in forced delight. I took the folder, opened it slowly, pretending to read. It was worse than I imagined. Not just a transfer of shares, but a binding guarantee that I would be responsible for their debts, their failures, their crimes if things went wrong. My name, my signature, my future, gone with a stroke of ink. "Why me?" I asked softly. Because you are the only one we can trust, my father said, his tone smooth, his lie practiced. Because you are family. And in that moment something inside me broke, not with sadness but with clarity. I remembered why I left. I remembered the nights I cried in my tiny apartment, the days I fought to prove I could live without their money, without their poison. They never loved me for me. I was a tool, a key, a lifeline. And tonight they were ready to drain me dry. I closed the folder, stood up slowly and smiled. I will think about it, I said. The room murmured, some relieved, some impatient. My father frowned, my mother tried to soften the silence. Michael slipped me a note when no one was looking. Meet me in the study. Midnight. That night I lay in the guest room I once called my own, staring at the ceiling. The old chandelier still flickered, the walls still whispered, and my mind was a storm of betrayal, of anger, of plans. I would not let them win, not this time, not after everything. Midnight came too slowly. I sat in the guest room, the ticking clock louder than my own heartbeat, the mansion breathing with secrets behind every locked door. When the clock finally struck 12, I slipped out, barefoot on the cold marble floor, the corridors still lit with the dim golden glow of expensive chandeliers. I moved like a thief in my own childhood home. The study door was ajar, and Michael was already there, standing by the window with a cigarette in his hand. The smoke curled like secrets trying to escape. You came, he whispered, locking the door behind me. His face looked older, harder, but his eyes carried the same flicker of defiance I remembered from years ago. They will not wait long, San. Tomorrow morning they plan to push you again. They even prepared a fake lawyer to convince you everything is legal. Tell me everything, I said, crossing my arms. I want the truth, not pieces. Michael sighed, crushed the cigarette, and opened a hidden drawer in the desk. Inside were documents, photos, bank statements, evidence. He laid them before me like cards in a dangerous game. They are broke, he said bluntly. The last deal with the overseas partners failed. They owe millions. They moved money illegally, laundered it through charities, used your name without permission to secure loans. If you sign that paper, you will become the shield they need. And if the investigation comes, you will go down first. The room spun around me. My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages, fake contracts, forged signatures, debts that didn't belong to me but were tied to me like chains. My father's signature was everywhere, my mother too. Even Eric's name appeared, a pawn in their desperate game. I felt a wave of nausea rise. How could they? I whispered. Because they always did, Michael said coldly. You just didn't see it before. I leaned on the desk, breathing heavily. So why are you helping me? I asked. Michael smirked bitterly. Because I'm tired of being their dog, because once you stood up for me when no one else did, and because they don't deserve to win again. His words were sharp, but they lit a spark inside me. I remembered the girl I used to be, naive, loyal, desperate for their approval. That girl was gone. In her place was a woman who built her own life from the ruins they left her. I was not going to be their scapegoat, not this time. What do we do? I asked finally. Michael leaned closer, lowering his voice. Tomorrow, pretend to agree. They will try to celebrate to make you comfortable. But at noon they plan to send you to the notary's office with their fake lawyer. That's when you strike. I will prepare the real lawyer, one who will expose their scheme, but you must gather proof. You have access they don't suspect you have. Check your old room, they never cleared your stuff. There might be old drives, letters, something. I nodded slowly, my pulse quickening. For the first time that night I felt not just fear but a dangerous thrill. If I played this right, I could turn the trap back on them. The next morning the mansion was alive with fake warmth. My mother brought me breakfast in bed, something she hadn't done since I was a child. My father invited me to his office, speaking about family, unity, legacy, as if words could erase what they had done. Eric avoided me again, guilt flickering in his eyes. The relatives were all smiles, but their eyes betrayed hunger. They needed me. They thought they already had me. I spent the morning pretending, laughing, nodding, letting them believe I was softening. All the while my mind worked like a blade. At 10 I excused myself and went to my old room. The furniture was new, but the closet still held a box of my old things. Among them, a dusty laptop, a few notebooks, an envelope with receipts. I powered the laptop on. To my surprise, it worked. Inside were emails from years ago, conversations between my father and his partners. Some hinted at illegal transfers. Others mentioned me directly. She doesn't know. She won't know until it's too late. My chest tightened. This was more than enough to start. I copied everything to a flash drive I had in my purse just in case. Then I took pictures with my phone. Evidence was power, and power was what I needed. At noon, as Michael predicted, they summoned me. The fake lawyer was there, a man with a perfect smile and a briefcase full of lies. "Just a formality," he said, handing me the papers. "Sign here and your family will secure a brighter future." I took the pen, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. "I want to read it again," I said sweetly. My father's jaw tightened. "You already know what it says." "I want to read it again," I repeated, flipping the pages slowly, deliberately. I could feel their impatience like heat in the room. My mother tried to smooth it over with a laugh. "She's always been careful, Richard. Let her." I smiled at them, a slow, dangerous smile. "You know," I said, "when I came here I thought maybe you had changed, that maybe after all these years you would treat me like a daughter, not an investment, but you haven't changed, you only became better liars." The room went silent, my father's face darkened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," I whispered, leaning forward, "that I know everything, the debts, the fraud, the forged loans under my name, the overseas deal that failed, all of it." Their faces drained of color, my mother's hand trembled, the fake lawyer tried to speak but I cut him off. "And tomorrow," I added, "the authorities will know too." Michael entered at that moment, holding his phone like a loaded weapon. "It's done," he said. "Copies sent, originals secured." Panic erupted. My father lunged toward him, my mother pleaded, relatives started whispering like a nest of startled snakes. But I stood there, calm for the first time in years. "This is only the beginning," I said quietly. "I came here for answers, now I want justice." The storm outside mirrored the chaos inside the mansion. Rain lashed against the windows like 1,000 tiny knives as I stood in the grand hall, watching the empire that had once ruled my life crumble piece by piece. News had already spread. The authorities were coming. The evidence Michael and I had sent was enough to open a full investigation. Every whisper, every fake smile at the breakfast table was now replaced by frantic calls, shredded papers, suitcases being dragged through corridors. "Are you satisfied now?" My father hissed at me as he passed, his once impeccable suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. "You've destroyed us." I didn't flinch. "I didn't destroy anything, father. You built this on lies, I just stopped being your shield." My mother appeared, her makeup smeared, her voice trembling between anger and desperation. "San, you don't understand. We did this for you, for the family. If this goes public, we will lose everything, our name, our home, our legacy." I looked at her and for a moment the child in me wanted to believe her, but that child was gone. "You didn't do it for me," I said coldly. "You did it for yourselves. You used me because I was easy to use." Eric finally stepped out from the shadows, his guilt now fully exposed. "San, please, I didn't know it would go this far. I thought they just needed your help for a short time." I laughed bitterly. "You knew enough. You watched me sign away my future while you stayed silent." The clock struck 3. Outside, headlights cut through the rain, black cars pulling up the driveway. Michael joined me at the top of the stairs, his phone buzzing with updates. "They're here," he said. "Financial Crimes Unit, they have warrants." The doors burst open. Agents in dark suits entered, their presence like a cold blade slicing through the mansion's false grandeur. Papers were seized, computers unplugged, safes cracked open. My father roared, my mother cried, relatives tried to disappear into the walls. But there was no escape. I watched as they led my father away in handcuffs. He turned his head, his eyes burning with hate and betrayal. "You'll regret this," he spat. "No," I whispered, "I regret trusting you." Michael stayed close, his presence both a shield and a reminder of how far I had come from the girl who once begged for their approval. "What now?" he asked as the chaos began to settle, the storm outside finally easing. I walked through the mansion, past the portraits of ancestors who stared down with judgmental eyes. "Now," I said softly, "now I take back what's mine." Over the next weeks the investigation deepened. Hidden accounts surfaced, properties were seized, and the family's empire fell like a house of cards. Reporters hounded them, creditors demanded repayment, and one by one the so-called loyal relatives turned on each other. The fake lawyer disappeared, the overseas partners denied involvement, and Eric, he begged me to protect him. "Help me, San," he whispered one night, tears in his eyes. "I was weak, but I'm your brother." I looked at him for a long moment. "You were my brother," I said finally, "when you chose to stand by me, not sell me." The hardest part was my mother. She came to me weeks later, broken, stripped of her designer dresses and diamond rings, her voice barely a whisper. "I was wrong," she said. "I should have protected you." I felt a pang of something, pity maybe, but it was too late. "You had your chance," I replied, "now I have mine." With Michael's help I took control of what was left, legally, cleanly, with the same precision they once used to try to destroy me. The mansion was sold, the debts paid. The rest I invested not in luxury but in freedom, my own and for those they had wronged before me. Months later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment overlooking the city. The storm was gone, replaced by a quiet sunrise. Michael joined me, a rare smile on his face. "So," he said, "was it worth it?" I sipped my coffee, watching the light spill over the skyline. "It wasn't about worth," I said. "It was about finally being free." He chuckled, "And them?" I shrugged. "They taught me a lesson: never underestimate the quiet one." My phone buzzed. Another message, an invitation from an old investor who once turned me away, now eager to meet. Funny how the world changes when you stop being a pawn and start being a player. I turned off the phone, letting the city hum beneath me. My story wasn't over, it was just beginning. But one thing was certain: I would never again walk into a mansion like that as a victim, only as the one who holds the keys.